Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to June's Let's Talk About Health Community Conversation. My name's Amy Jo Moyer, and I'm the Senior Director of Community Health for the system. And we're delighted to have you online today for this wonderful conversation about family health and fitness. I would like to introduce our main character and speaker today, Dr. Wendy Grader-Beck. Dr. Wendy Grader-Beck is a primary care physician who is board certified in internal medicine and pediatrics. She enjoys caring for multiple generations within a family. Her main goal is to optimize wellness through healthy living, preventative medicine, and proactive care of chronic health conditions. She is a graduate of the University of Maryland College Park and Harvard Medical School. She completed her medical training in the Harvard Combined Internal Medicine and Pediatrics Residency Program. Her practice of medicine promotes joy and the importance of engaging in lifelong learning. Dr. Grader-Beck is a fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics and a member of the American College of Physicians. Dr. Grader-Beck, welcome.
Thank you so much, Amy. It's a real pleasure to be invited to talk about something that's so important to all of us. So this talk is going to be framed around the Ask Me 3, and this is a way of engaging when you're talking with your doctor to get some meaningful answers. And so the first question you want to go to your doctor with is, what is my main problem? So framing that question. And then you want to be asking, what do you need to do to address the problem? And then why is it important for you to do that? So by using that framework, you can get meaningful answers, and you know when you go home what you need to do and why you need to do it. So just some examples I'm going to give that we can talk about near the end of this talk. Let's have one problem be, I'm gaining a few pounds each year, which is a common problem. Another could be my children are not sleeping well. So those are also just some examples. So let's get started thinking about family health and fitness. It's a big, important topic. Our families are where our important relationships are formed and maintained, and we learn here to relate to one another and to our entire world through these formative relationships. And we as parents are modeling for our children, which is a big part of the hard work. So when we're intentional, meaning that we have a plan, we can begin to connect to one another in healthy ways, and also to learn to connect to our environment in healthy ways. And this really happens through healthy choices. I love this quote from Michelle Kondo because when I'm talking about health today, I'm really talking about including our physical health, our mental health, and the health of our communities. And I want to start out by talking about sharing meals. So it seems like a very small thing, but it's very important time for families, for the children and the adults. And so we want to look for all the chances in our week to share mealtime with our families. And we're all so busy being pulled in different directions. So it's important to set our compass to a shared meal. And from our very first meals, food time is a social time. So when you have your 6-month-old having their first bites of food, it's really not about getting calories in. It's really about that social event. And that doesn't change. And it turns out, when they look at this carefully, doing research, children who eat meals together as a family have significantly lower risks for depression, for suicide, for substance abuse, and early sexual activity. And so we can think about mealtime as being a quality time. We can stay in relationship and build more connections just with that shared time. And so it's a chance for casual conversation. This can be when teenagers tend to open up about their day without our asking. And if we're having one meal for a family, everyone benefits because children end up eating more varied foods when they're eating the same foods that the adults are eating at the table. And so you can avoid this kids meal situation where you've got limited choices of what some people in the family are eating. And this ends up starting young as well. So, in those first years from 6 months on to 2 years, we're trying to introduce as many flavors to a child as we can, and usually focusing in on the flavors that are a part of families' culture of what they're eating often. And so it's a important part of those early years as well, but it's never too late to try new things. So if you have a school-age child or you yourself have a fairly limited diet, the grocery store is a great place to say, you know, one new item a week. So if you have a child who has a really limited diet, you can take them with you to the grocery store and say, let's choose one new thing a week, and then you can look at different ways to make that thing and see if your family enjoys it. The other issue about, or the other fun part about sharing a meal is it can really be a team effort. And so small children can be washing the vegetables that are going to be cut up. They can be helping to set the table. They can be the announcer going around the house to get everybody to the table. Then older children can be a part of preparing the meals. They can be creating the salad or cutting up things. Or, you know, if you have a child or you tend to be someone or you're, you know, that likes to cook alone, they can be just a part of it, but sharing conversation during that time. Because food time is really, it equals social time. And it's not just for young children or, you know, school-age children. It turns out it's really important as we get older as well. There's good research showing that adults who eat with others have lower risks of heart disease and diabetes. So then we can't have a talk about healthy families without looking at some healthy food choices. So I love this visual because it's fairly simple and it's sharing everything that's evidence-based. There's no marketing in this picture here. And so I think the part to look at is the left side here. So half of what we're eating, this is the goal. We're not always eating like this, but this is the goal, to be trying to have half of what we're eating be vegetables and fruits. And this doesn't include potatoes and French fries, so that's a simple carbohydrate. So these are vegetables, and if everyone's heard the 5 to stay alive idea, that's 5 servings of vegetables a day to stay healthy. The other piece of this I think important to look at is the water here in the glass. So trying not to have our calories come from supersized drinks, juices, soda. Those are really not recommended. So if we want to get good vegetables and fruits into our children, we should not be doing it through juices. Fruits really growing out of the ground is the best way to have healthy eating. And then the other thing to look at here is the whole grains. So nowadays, grocery stores have so many choices for whole grains. There's quinoa, there's millet, there's so many different choices in the grocery store. And so if you see something you've never tried before, it may be that, you know, this will be millet month and you can try out all of the different ways that that grain is cooked. And it's kind of fun because now in the international world we live in, there's a lot of different recipes that you can find online. You can be eating the way people in different parts of Africa are eating, or different parts of South America, so you can really explore that. The other easy visual to look at is this healthy eating pyramid, and I think this also is easy to kind of get a sense of the proportion of part of our diet. So this very top here says use sparingly, and up here we've got red meat and butter, refined grains. So, and then it describes what those are. Those are simple carbohydrates. So that's breads, rice, pasta, and potatoes. And then we've got sugary and sweet drinks. So this is juices up here as well. So the second piece that's very simple to think about, but is so important, is outside time. And it turns out that just being outside is really good for human beings. So for adults, we know that time outside reduces stress, it reduces blood pressure, and it reduces inflammation. Those are 3 risk factors for cardiovascular disease, which is the #1 reason that people in our country die. So just by being outside, you can reduce 3 risk factors for heart disease. Also, being outside reduces the risk for depression, and it helps us to recover from any psychological stressors more quickly. So that's great news. And also studies have shown that being in nature restores and strengthens our ability to think well. That includes our focus and our attention. So it's great news for adults. It's also great news for children. So for teenagers and for younger children, we know that they can be physically healthier by spending time outside. They're able to maintain a healthier weight. And I love this one. So it turns out that children that spend time outside have a reduced risk of developing nearsightedness, where they need to wear glasses. And for those children that do have nearsightedness, they will reduce the speed with which they have worsening nearsightedness. So, getting those glasses every year. When they get their vision test, they're more stable over time than children that don't spend time outside. Outdoor time has been shown also to promote creativity and critical thinking. And those are the two skills that we need to do well in school. So children learn better, have better academic performance when they spend time outside. It also improves behavior. There's less anger and less aggression for children that are outside. And then this big one, being mentally healthier. So we do have this epidemic of mental health problems happening for children, for teenagers, young adults, and this is really an easy fix from one standpoint. If outdoor time is one of the first steps that can be helpful. So I encourage everyone to look at this website, healthychildren.org. This is a website of the American Academy of Pediatrics, and they have a lot of resources there. And you can see there, you can read more about all of the benefits to your children of being outside. There are guidelines that exist for being outdoors. And for infants, they should be brought outside 2 to 3 times a day. And this is in all weather. Then for toddlers, so this is children that are between 1 and 3 years old, they should also be outside 2 to 3 times a day and have at least an hour or an hour and a half of time outside. For preschoolers, so these are children that are 3 years old up to 5, they need more time outside. They need 1.5 to 2 hours outside a day. And this is coming, these are recommendations that are coming from the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Public Health Association. Then for older children and for teens and adults, we benefit from having at least 15 minutes a day or 120 minutes a week. And so that's really a great thing, right? We can get that done. That's not a lot of time, but that time outside has all the benefits that I spoke about. And when we're trying to decide what are we going to do when we get out there, I think it's important to remember that this is a prescription that can be a pleasure. So really emphasizing the fun of being outside together and choosing developmentally appropriate activities and toys. So the very youngest of infants, this is a walk either in a baby carrier or a stroller. This can be just being outside for a very few minutes a day to get some fresh air, but doing that several times during the course of a day. Then we have the toddlers. This can be bubbles, this can be balls, this can be stomping in puddles. There's so many delights. I don't know if you've ever walked and watched a toddler just touch each little dot on a sidewalk. It's very visually stimulating outside. They can spend a lot of time watching leaves up inside, up in a tree blowing in the wind. But things that we can offer as children get older, 3 years, they can start with tricycles and ride-on toys. School-age children love jump ropes. Those are a simple thing, easy to store, doesn't take a lot of space, and there's a lot of games just with a jump rope. Children that have more eye coordination, and then older children and teenagers can enjoy badminton, and then swimming together. Hikes outside in nature are great. When we have the winter time when the light is scarce, we can go on flashlight walks with young toddlers, older children. That can be a lot of fun. There's mini golf. There's a lot of different activities that we can do together outside. I would say that very important to think about having the tools for this. So everyone really needs to be having rain boots, right? So that's a great gift for anyone, like for their birthdays, having rain boots that fit so that you can go out in the rain and have some stomping around or some exploring in nature on a rainy day. Kids love it. Teenagers love it too, to be out in the rain in a raincoat and rain boots. Exploring is great fun. Then in the winter months, having the warm gloves and the warm hats, like prepared for the weather so you can really enjoy it and be out every day. Because Maryland has all of these seasons that we can enjoy, different things happening. I think if you don't know about the nature centers near you, that's a really important resource. So in Baltimore County, there's the Irvine Nature Center, Oregon Ridge, there's the state parks. We have Soldier's Delight in the city of Baltimore. We've got Silburn Arboretum that has a nature area, particularly for children. They have a smell garden with fun aromas, plants growing. And then the other fun thing is that state parks have backpacks that you can check out, so you can go exploring. You can get some nets and go catch things with the nets. And so that's like a fun activity. If you're not sure like where to start, you can, just borrow one of the backpacks and see what's in there. So that can be fun and new, something fresh for kids. The other thing is the state parks and the nature centers have junior ranger programs. There's outdoor camps that they have in the summer. These are really expensive, fun ways for kids to be outside with other kids. I will mention today is the first day of summer. Happy summer. And so this is a great day to commit to spending some time outside with your family on the longest day of the year, longest sunlight time of the year. This weekend on the 24th is the Great American Backyard Campout. And so a lot of the state parks have a program where you would just pay for the one night of camping, and then they give you all of the free camping equipment that you need this weekend. And so if you look at dnr.maryland.gov, you can see a list of participating parks and their phone numbers to see if you can make a reservation. The next thing I want to just mention is the importance of physical activity. The outdoor time I spoke about was not necessarily about being active outside, but just getting out the door and spending time in nature. This part is really about moving our bodies. And so by moving our bodies and being physically active, we can promote a positive mood, we can stay physically fit, and we can also improve our memory and also our academic successes. We can prevent depression, anxiety, becoming overweight or obese, high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, low bone density, and several cancers. These are great visuals. This comes from the CDC, right? So the Center for Disease Control. And children that have physically active lives are able to make this a central part of being alive. And it's wonderful to set these habits when children are young, but it is never too late to get started. So a lot of times, in our culture, we focus on physical activity as being important for the heart. And yes, definitely it is good for the heart, but it's so important to be aware of the brain health of being physically active. And so children who are physically active have improvements in their memory and improvements in their focus. And so it's really important to emphasize how important this is for brain health because it improves school performance. And of course, it also is important for children's maintaining a healthy weight. It's important for their bones. Looking at adults, we have a similar visual. And this is great because it shows you the immediate benefits. Sleeping, which we all want to have a good night's sleep, decreasing anxiety and also depression, and improving our blood pressure. So that's the immediate benefit of being physically active. And then there are the long-term benefits. And again, we think about activity as heart health, but really physical activity keeps our brains healthy. So by staying physically active or becoming physically active, we can reduce the risks of dementia, and we can also slow the progression of dementia by staying physically active. So vascular health, taking good care of our blood pressure, of our blood vessels, helps our brains. Of course, this also is great for our heart, helps our maintain a healthy weight or come back to a healthy weight. It's great for our bones. And it lowers the risk of 8 cancers. By staying physically active, you're reducing your risk of bladder cancer, breast cancer, colon cancer, endometrial cancer, esophageal, kidney, lung, and stomach cancer by staying physically active. For older adults, participating in Tai Chi, wonderful research on this, improves balance and reduces the risk of falls. So what are the guidelines? The guidelines for physical activity for children are that these are school-age children, 6 to 17 years old, should be moderately or vigorously active for an hour or more a day. And if we look at 2017, 25% of children met these guidelines. Unfortunately, with, I think, the pandemic and more time spent on screens, it's unlikely that we've gotten better than the 25%. So I speak with the families and the children in my practice often about what can they do, what will they enjoy doing to get more activity in their day. And this can be dancing to songs that you enjoy. This can be, jump rope. This can be walking briskly. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And so becoming creative and imagining what is it that you enjoy doing or your children enjoy doing that you could spend more time doing. For adults, the guidelines are 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity each week. So that's 30 minutes 5 times a week. And then along with that, having 2 days of muscle strengthening activity. And if we try and imagine for an adult, what is vigorous or moderate physical activity? This is walking briskly. So if you're walking with a friend, you'd be sharing in the conversation. So that, because if you were the only one, you'd have a hard time talking the whole time because you'd be slightly winded. This is the same as riding a bike that has a few hills on your path, or pushing a lawnmower. And then the muscle strengthening activity, this can be using resistant bands or lifting weights, or just using your own body weight. So you can be doing planks, leg lifts, and then heavy gardening also would be, and some forms of yoga would count as this muscle strengthening. Here I have a resource for some online places that you can look of doing things outdoors in Maryland. So there's a place here where you can look at all of the different locations where there's fun activities in Maryland that you can reach. They have a trail for biking and for hiking. There's different trails that you can look at to go to new places outside. We have a lot of nature available to us that's a short ride away. And also libraries often will have some fun events. And then you can look at the waterways of Maryland. So you can be, where can you go swimming? Where can you rent a canoe or a kayak? Where can you do inner tubing? We have these rivers in Maryland that are great for that. And then also this last one is a place where you can look at volunteering. So, all of our teenagers need some volunteer hours, and this is an opportunity to be doing that outside. So my last important aspect of family health I want to mention is a fun one. It's about playtime. And play is so important for humans. And we just can't stress enough how important this is. We learn through play, we develop through play. And if you want to look carefully at this, the American Academy of Pediatrics has created an initiative called The Power of Play, because it does seem that we are spending more and more time and guided activities of learning that are not particularly playful. So for children, what we know through careful research is that play is essential for brain development. It's through play, it's through games. This is open play and also play with rules. It helps us with decision making. Children develop their ability to make decisions, to solve problems. It improves creativity, increases confidence, and also has an important role in building connections and strong communities. So play is important for children, but that doesn't stop. Being human adults, we also need play, and it really helps us as well to build and to maintain connections, and also helps to maintain cognitive growth and cognitive health. So this prevents dementia and also helps to slow progression of dementia. Play does. So playing together is all kinds of fun. And this can be a game of tickle. This can be a game of peekaboo when you have a little toddler, a game of hide and seek. You can incorporate doing this outside. And then you can have small games that you're playing board games together. You can be playing games while you're driving down the road together with all the driving that families do these days. And I just encourage all of us to think about making a play date with one another, making a play date to just enjoy some time together. There's so many forms of play. We can talk more about that if you'd like. So in our busy lives, for me to start, mentioning these things, a lot of times the question will be, how can I make the time or even imagine having the time for doing these things that you mentioned? And so I think we need to start to pay attention to the priorities and where our time is devoted. And so nowadays, your phone has the app that'll tell you, how much screen time you've had. Your tablets have that. Microsoft can tell you how much time your family members, your children are spending on their screens. And so we really need to see, can we substitute some of that screen time for outdoor time? And how can we put these things together? So we talked about sharing meals. We all have to eat anyway. We talked about physical activity, outdoor time. I mean, those certainly can be put together as a family. And for some of us, that are older, we're talking about, 20 minutes a day of doing something like this. And then our children, they do need that a whole hour of physical activity every day. So we can look and see, in the balance of life, are there things that we're spending time on that we could have less of, so we could have more play, more time together. And so I like to think about picnics. It is the first day of summer, and for me, picnics sort of represent all of this bundled together, right? It's playful. Picnics are really sort of a fun adventure. They're outside. You're interacting, connecting to one another. This can be with other families in the neighborhood, potlucks and things like that. It's outside in nature. It's an intentional effort to create a common meal. And so I really encourage all of you to plan a picnic. Children love the idea of a picnic. So that may be a time when a child be willing to try a food that they wouldn't want to try at the dining room or kitchen table because they're in the setting of a picnic, cutting up things in fun ways, making faces, eyes and nose for toddlers to try new things can really help to engage around novel new things. So I'm just going to go back to this Ask Me 3. We talked about the problem of every year gaining a few pounds. And so if we look at that being the problem, what do we need to do? And I think, this is such a common problem in our world and in our country, to gain a few pounds every year. It's to just stay stable. If you're overweight or obese now, even just staying stable does mean success, because the standard is people are gaining weight every year. So what to do? I think the first thing is looking at food quality. So if we go back to that picture of the healthy eating plate or the healthy food pyramid, looking at, are we getting the phytonutrients, the nutrients out of the vegetables? Are we able to have complex carbohydrates or whole grains? And are we choosing the heart-healthy proteins that are lower in saturated fat and have more of the mono and polysaturated fats? So that's the first step, is the food quality. The reason I mention that is we do need to look at our portion sizes, which are very large compared to even, 10 or 20 years ago. certainly from the last 40 years. And so it's hard to decrease portions when we're eating a lot of simple carbohydrates. So that's going to be the breads, the pastas, the rice, and the potatoes, not including the bagged and boxed crinkly things. So those are all simple carbs. So if we're decreasing those simple carbs with the food quality, it's going to be easier for us to say, okay, I think I can have 3 bites less of breakfast, 3 bites less of each meal, lunch, dinner. And that adds up every day, every week, every month. And then considering sleep. So we know that people that don't have enough sleep have changes in their hormone levels that make it harder to lose weight and do cause some weight gain. And then looking at your stress level. High stress, the stress hormones also cause weight gain and make it hard to lose weight. And how can we reduce stress? It's usually by finding that time to get outside, to be more physically active, and to be playful, which is tricky. It's tricky to become playful first. A lot of times we just need to get outside and start moving for that, start 10 minutes a day, get ourselves up to the 15 to 20 minutes. And then we have that reduction in stress where we have some playful energy to engage around play. Why is it important for me to do this? To pay attention to gaining that small amount of weight every year, to maintain health, to prevent illness, to prevent cancer. And we also end up having a lot of good energy. The other example I had given was, my children aren't sleeping well. And so this is a common problem for parents. And I just want to start by mentioning that poor sleep is often associated with anxiety and depression. And we do have this mental health crisis for people of all ages. And so first step would be to get a sense of stress levels or any symptoms of anxiety or depression. And if there is significant anxiety or depression, the research is clear that 90 minutes of outdoor physical activity each week or a 15-minute daily walk has a profoundly positive impact on mood, as good as an antidepressant, an SSRI or an SNRI, with no side effect except you're going to have some better brain health and heart health and other things you mentioned. So time outdoors in nature, even when you're not active, helps to reduce stress and improve mood. So just making a daily plan to increase outdoor time and then also increasing physical activity, that makes sense. For children that are not having any mental health problems, fresh air and active time is really crucial for living the good life. So remembering the outdoor goal for preschoolers is 1.5 to 2 hours a day. For school-age children, that's about 20 minutes of outdoor time a day. And then the physical activity goals. Are your children meeting those goals? And how, what changes can you make? Because if you meet the physical activity goals, your sleep improves. So that's a really important thing to look at for children that aren't sleeping well. And then considering the amount of and the timing of screen time. So turning off screens, 2 hours before laying in bed improves the amount of time it takes to fall asleep. So, and then the last question here, why is it important for me to do this? Sleep is a miracle drug, truly is. It promotes a positive mood, it promotes academic success, and it helps to maintain a healthy weight. So I just want to thank you very much for listening to this, and if you have any questions, feel free to share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Grader-Beck. As was mentioned in the beginning, if you do have questions, please put them in the chat so that we can ask Dr. Grader-Beck anything that you would like to about this presentation or as it relates to family health.
I'm expecting some hard questions here. But don't be shy.
It says, okay. So yes, one question that came up, not directly for the doctor, is that will we be able to have access to these slides? And the answer is yes. Actually, we have the Let's Talk Health website where we list all of the presentations, and so they would be posted there. And we'll make sure in our follow-up message for those that attend that we'll share that information. Okay. A question for you, Doc. How difficult, with busy schedules, it's sometimes difficult to do some of the things at your suggestion. For someone who's as busy as you, as a doctor, what are some of the quick finds that you do in order to maintain your health?
Yeah, I would say that really for me personally, that first thing is that 10-minute lunch walk. So, some people have a whole hour lunch. I have a 30-minute lunch, and every lunchtime I start with a 10-minute walk. I bring my lunch from home, so I don't have to wait for anyone to get me my food. And I take my lunch out, and I go on a 10-minute walk outside. If I have time, I'll do a 15-minute walk outside. And then I'll sit outside, I'll take my shoes off, and I'll have my feet in the grass on the campus of St. Joe's, and I will eat my lunch. So I have a little mini picnic every day. If it's freezing cold, I'm not going to sit on the ground, but I still do my walk every single day. I do my walk. If it's raining, I do my walk. If it were today and I weren't right here at lunch, this is my lunch hour, or my lunch time, I would be out there walking. So that gets my 10 minutes in. Or 15 minutes. Usually it's probably 15 minutes, and then my outdoor time. So that's my simple getting that done. I think that usually people are trying to eat through their lunch. No, we can give ourselves this gift of this 10 to 15 minutes every day. That reduces stress. I'm more present for the people that I'm caring for in the afternoon. It's like a fresh start for the day. I think that's an important thing. The other thing is, easy meals. When we eat at home every day, and not making complex things. I don't do food prep where I'm like set up for the whole week. I don't do that, but I have some very easy meals that look a lot like the healthy eating plate that are not complicated. So it could be, I'll give you an example, right? Mm-hmm. So quesadillas, right? Quesadillas are so simple. They take no time as long as you have some, if you like avocado, you have some fresh tomatoes. You have some beans that are coming out of a can, whether they're refried beans or, whatever variety of beans you like. If you have time, you could grill some chicken to put in there. You can put salad in there. You can add sour cream for your teenage daughter who loves it. And there you have it. And that literally takes no time at all to create quesadillas. So little simple things like that. Most meals, and this is, I think we forget this, but it takes about 20 minutes to cook dinner. It takes about 20 minutes. It's really not a hard thing to do if we've got what we need right there. But I'm a simple cook, right? I mean, I go for the vegetables and I bring them together and we eat together. So I think that is one thing about outdoor time. So engaging. So my children now are 17 and 20, and we often get so busy. Children have so much homework and they have so many activities that it seems like their whole day is gone before they can even do anything physical. And so a lot of times creating some time that's together outside is the decompression that kids need. And it gives them a chance to be in a casual situation where if you're regularly doing something together, so we'll eat outside, we'll go and sit outside at the table. So we're getting our outdoor time there as well. But if one of my children is having a hard time, we'll just go out in the dark, we'll get a blanket, and we'll lay and look up at the stars for a few minutes. We feel much better afterwards. It's so simple. It doesn't take much, So I think that creating those times for your children when they're, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, saying like, why don't you, talk with me while I'm making dinner? Or, do you want to make the salad? That gives us that casual time together that sort of decompresses so that when we reach the table together, there's more opportunity to just sit and listen if somebody has something to say. There's no agenda at the dinner table except to be together. And so I think that pays off because it feels good as a family to have those minutes together, to touch base when we're busy, all day long. Children are as well. It's tricky for single family to do this, but it's still doable. You know, children of single moms are really, really resilient children, and they know how to do so many things. And they love, you know, they may not say it, but they love to be able to help their mother. So if you can give them a task and say, hey, it's time for dinner, like give these children something to do to feel like they made that meal happen. And then everyone is also, when people put effort into something, it's called cognitive dissonance. When we put effort into things, we enjoy them more. That's why, you know, if you have a child who doesn't like to eat a lot of foods, if they choose a new food at the grocery store, they're more likely to try it. Growing things, you know, you can have a few little plants, and this can be from toddlers on to teenagers. You can have a few little plants growing in your kitchen or out on your balcony or your porch, and then the kids can go out and pick a few mint leaves that they cut up and they put in the water for dinner, or they can, you know, whether it's cilantro, whatever those things are, the herbs are, you can buy them, you know, at Trader Joe's, a little thing of basil that's growing. Put it there, have the child be watering that when it's needed, and they can pick it and they can put it in the salad. They love that, you know? So engaging children around this really is fun.
Thank you so much for that. There was actually a comment that said it was great for you to lift, you know, some of the family values, trying to bring the family together in the midst of all of that, which they found important. And I think you touched on it a bit in terms of food preparation, but we have a question about, do you have any suggestions on eating healthy or healthier while on the go?
Yes, absolutely. You need to have food with you. You cannot rely on whatever fast food is around, right? I am a major proponent of having food with me at all times because I get hungry and I want to have something. And also for young children, you know, if you don't have those snacks with you, you're going to resort to something that may not be your optimal choice, you know? So if you have little toddlers, you know, it can be cutting up pieces of tofu. They don't have to stay in the refrigerator. You can have, you know, any little thing that they can just like finger food that they can eat. I know people are like, oh no, tofu, but it does taste good. And children, toddlers, they don't complain about tofu. But usually having some nuts is a great choice because nuts are really sustaining. So having nuts in the car on the go is a great idea. Having fruit is a great choice. Carrots, hummus, carrots, peanut butter, all those things that are easy to like dip into peanut butter or to hummus. So that's for different people, depending what you like, you know, that can be celery, that can be cucumbers, that can be carrots. And I think like having either the nut butter or the hummus with it has that good, healthy, heart-healthy protein along with that heart-healthy fat, and that's more sustaining. And also, you know, when we're on the go and we tend to be stressed out, chewing calms us down. And so all of those things I mentioned are a lot of chewing, or you could have cut up apples. But those things they keep pretty well for the whole day. So, you know, you can have something like that if you're on the go. Sandwiches, you know, are a simple thing to take along with you when you're making lunch. Leftovers, fantastic. You know, just make a little extra and then you've got it for the next day. And then you have more time to go on your walk because you're not waiting in line anywhere. And usually I'm not heating up anything, you know, either because I just want to go right outside.
Those are great tips. Our next question is it better to walk before lunch or after lunch? Essentially before or after meals?
Yeah, you know, I find that in the middle of a busy work day, if we do the walk first, we get out a lot of the stress of what you know, if we've been working hard all day, and then we're able to be more present and actually taste our food and chew it and not feel rushed. So, you know, I think from a metabolic standpoint, you know, there's been some research, you know, like if I get up and I start moving soon after I eat, is that going to improve my metabolism? I think when it comes to our busy lives, we do tend to eat without even knowing that we're eating, right? So we are multitasking. We're chewing on our food while we're checking texts or we're on the telephone or we're finishing up things on the computer. And so we didn't enjoy our meal at all. And then we don't even know when we're full because we're not paying attention to how we're feeling. So I do think that by doing a walk before a meal, we're more likely to be relaxed, to enjoy the meal, and to pay attention to what we're doing, to taste our food, which usually tastes pretty good, and also to be just more mindful of how we're feeling, not just how our food tastes, but how we're feeling. And so usually that before lunch works well. But, after dinner, so a lot of times, if you're getting home from work, you've got to prepare a meal, it's getting later. I think at the end of the day, often preparing the meal can be a time of decompressing, and then going on a walk after you eat sort of works out with the cadence of a family and family life.
Thank you, Doc. We have another question here for you. What about people with limited mobility? How does going outside and sitting assist in mental health?
It works. It works. So again, all of those benefits of being outside are unrelated to physical activity. That's a whole other section, the physical activity. Why does it work? Probably because we're humans, we're animals, and we're probably meant to spend some time outside. So, if you have limited mobility and it's merely getting outside your door, then do that. If you can drive someplace and have different views of what you're looking at, you can do that. The research on this is so profound. So I'll just mention that for people that are in the hospital that are unable to get outside, if they have a window, or not even a window, but a picture of nature, they will heal more quickly. So nature truly heals us. Being outside is a part of the way that humans reset themselves in a sense. So you don't have to be moving to spend that time outside. And so if you're having a hard time and you cannot motivate yourself to be physically active, and many people, when you're having a lot of anxiety or you're having depression, you can't imagine becoming physically active because you're exhausted from the illness of depression. And so just going and sitting down on a park bench or laying down on a picnic, blanket is enough to make a difference in terms of over time your mental health and the other things we talked about, your blood pressure, things like that. You don't have to be physically active to go outside. And that's usually the first step, is to just get yourself out the door and spend some time out there.
Thank you. And another question here. So if you are someone who's diabetic, and I think on your food wheel you talked about the different areas of food you should have on your plate, some physicians say that fruit has a lot of sugar. So how do you handle the balance between whatever your diagnosis could be as opposed to what the recommendations are?
Yes. So if you are a diabetic or a pre-diabetic and you're really working hard to bring down your average blood sugar or your A1C, it's really important to look at what we're eating with things. So if you're going to have fruit, fruit is different than fruit juice. Everything that grows out of the ground, except potatoes, sadly, does have, it has some additional parts to it that help slow down how quickly we digest it. But if we eat the fruit with something that has protein and heart-healthy fat, we're going to slow down the digestion further. So a lot of times, you're not going to necessarily have just a fruit snack, but you could have a handful of nuts and then have your fruit snack. But if you look at that picture that I showed, and we can go back to it, it does show you that the vegetables is a much larger portion there, right? So I think really the focus on this side is really the vegetables. But yes, you can absolutely eat fruits. And when we're talking about this, we have to recognize that this is sort of like the perfect, okay? We don't have to be perfect. We have to look at the goals and start to work our way towards them at our own pace. So if you don't have any vegetables every day, getting one vegetable on your plate every day is a great start. If you don't eat vegetables every week, getting vegetables on your plate every week is a great start. So working towards this is important. Some people will talk about the different glycemic index of different fruits, and it is true that some are more slowly digested, which means that our blood sugar doesn't go up as high as quickly. And so those often are the fruits that have the large nuts, so peaches and plums and nectarines are a great choice. But compared to sweets, fruit is much better choice, right? So it's all relative to one another, so that's also important. So if you're trying to decide between a cupcake or watermelon's a great choice.
Yes. One of my favorites. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any more questions for Dr. Graderbeck? This has been wonderful because I've had some questions myself that have been answered here.
Well, I'm so glad to be able to spend the time doing this together. It's great.
We appreciate having you in our time to spend time with us today and to be able to discuss something that I think is very important, especially when it comes to overall health of us as individuals and then our families. But many of us are healthcare professionals, and we always preach we preach what we should be doing, and sometimes don't take the best care of ourselves while we're taking care of others. So I think it's always important to be able to take a step back and see where we can make those improvements so that we can have healthier lives.
Yes, so true, so true. Yes, we can take much better care of our families when we take care of ourselves. And I'll just, one of the first things when I meet a new family with a newborn is checking in if the parents have doctors and if they're caring for themselves. Because, the research is clear that parents that are healthy are able to maintain the health of their children better than when they're not healthy. So really, focusing on your own health is so important as a parent, but sometimes we need the incentive of our children's health to keep ourselves healthy. So that's the other piece of this. Sometimes we're not meeting our own goals, but when we realize our child needs to be outside or needs to be physically active for an hour a day, how are we going to make that happen? We can get engaged and we benefit as well, right? So it's all together. We're all really tightly knit to one another. So yeah.
It's all relative.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me just double check to see if we have any additional questions. But with that, I would just like to thank you, Dr. Wendy, for taking the time out of your schedule to be able to present to us today. And also thank you for those online who participated in the presentation. And we are taking a break for the summer, July and August, but we should be back in September with new dynamic programming, and we hope to see all of you there. So thank you for your time today, and have a great rest of your day.
Take good care. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.